When Emma told me she needed a break, I didn't argue. Her voice was calm but heavy, and I could tell she had rehearsed every word. "I just need time," she said, "to figure out who I am, and maybe be with someone who understands me better." It was the kind of sentence that echoes long after it's spoken. I didn't shout or beg. I just nodded and asked, "Are you sure?" She said yes, and that was the moment my world shifted. The days that followed felt strange. The house was too quiet, the coffee tasted different, and the evenings stretched endlessly. Friends told me to keep busy, to move on, but it's never that easy when someone you love walks away so gently. I packed her things, not out of anger, but because I couldn't keep looking at the reminders. Her favorite mug, her scarf on the chair, the half-finished book she'd left by the window. A week later, I bought a one-way ticket to another city. It wasn't a dramatic escape, I just needed space of my own. I took a job offer I'd been ignoring for months, a position in a small design firm in Vancouver. The first few weeks were awkward, like learning how to breathe again. But something about the new place gave me peace. I started walking to work every morning, exploring coffee shops, and meeting people who didn't know my past. One of those people was Mira, a quiet woman who worked in the same building. We'd see each other at the elevator almost every morning. At first, we only exchanged polite smiles. Eventually, those smiles turned into conversations. Small ones at first, about weather or work. But somehow, she had a way of making silence feel comfortable. Mira never asked about my past, and I didn't volunteer it. She taught me something I hadn't realized I'd forgotten, that healing doesn't always come through talking, but through living. She'd invite me to local art shows, and I'd go, surprised at how easy it was to laugh again. The ache that had once filled every corner of my chest slowly began to soften. Months went by, and one morning I woke up realizing I hadn't thought about Emma for days. It wasn't that I'd stopped caring, it was that I had finally stopped waiting. I'd started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Life was simple, quiet, and honest, and for the first time in a long while, I liked who I was becoming. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in nearly a year. Emma. My heart skipped a beat. I hesitated before answering, unsure of what hearing her voice would do to me. "Hi," she said softly. "How have you been?" It was polite, almost distant, but beneath her tone, I could hear uncertainty. She told me she'd moved back into our old neighborhood, that she had ended things with the man she'd left to spend time with. She said she'd made a mistake, that she missed what we had, and that she'd been following my posts. She'd seen how well I seemed to be doing. I didn't know what to say. Her words stirred old memories, but also something new, calm. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just different. "Emma," I said carefully, "you asked for space, and I gave it. I used that space to rebuild my life." She sighed, her voice trembling. "I know. I thought you'd wait for me." I paused before replying, "Maybe that's the difference between us. I didn't stop loving you overnight, but I realized love isn't about waiting for someone to change. It's about growing, even when they're gone." There was silence on the other end. Finally, she whispered, "So there's no chance?" I looked out the window of my small apartment, at the city lights reflecting on the water. "I think we both deserve to start fresh," I said. "Just, maybe not together." She didn't argue. She just said, "I understand," and hung up. After that call, I sat quietly for a long time. The ache that had once been unbearable now felt like a gentle reminder, proof that I'd lived, loved, and learned. I thought about how life has a strange way of closing circles. Sometimes the people who break you are the same ones who make you realize how strong you've become. The next day, I told Mira about the call. She listened without interrupting, then simply said, "You chose peace. That's rare." Her words stayed with me all day. I realized she was right. I had chosen peace over pain, growth over regret. That small choice changed everything. In the months that followed, my life settled into something beautiful and steady. Work went well, my paintings began to sell, and I finally felt present in my own story. Occasionally, I'd think of Emma, not with bitterness, but with quiet gratitude. She had been a chapter one needed, one that ended so another could begin. One evening, Mira and I stood watching the sunset from the pier. The city glowed gold and pink, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I'd lost anything. I just felt free. I turned to her and said, "You know, I used to think closure came from other people. But it really comes from understanding yourself." She smiled, and in that moment, I knew, this wasn't the ending of something. It was the beginning of everything I'd been waiting to live.